Hello, guys. Welcome back. It's Carly. Uh, so basically, today we are going to finish the chapter that we couldn't finish last time. Um, Also, I wanted to show you guys something. Hold on. Where is the flashlight? Hello, kitty, 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 mouse. Hi. Hi, kitty. Hey, kitty mouse. So, yep, I have a cat on my lap for this reading time. It's this kitty shall be now the cat that is on the live stream. I don't know. But today we are going to finish reading what we were reading and sorry, and try to get through at least some of the next chapter, but this live stream has to be a little bit shorter since um we have to get the body bed to bed, not bed. Wow. And they say I'm good with grammar. So, yeah. Sorry, I'm super distracted. I have a cat. All right. We were here. Harry had never been to London before. Although Hagrid seemed to know where he was going, he was obviously not used to getting there in an ordinary way. He got stuck in the ticket barrier on the underground and complained loudly that the seats were too small and the trains were too slow. I don't know how the Muggles manage without magic, he said. They climbed a broken-down escalator that led up to a bustling road lined with shops. Hagrid was so huge that he parted the crowd easily. All Harry had to do was keep close behind them. They passed bookshops and music stores, hamburger restaurants, and cinemas, but somehow that looked as if it. Wow. But nowhere. Kitty, no, do not step on the keyboard. Okay, the cat's gone. Do you need help getting out of my room? You're gonna get stuck. Marlin! Hang on. The cat is in trouble. I swear, sometimes. Okay. Moving on. Oof. But nowhere that looked as if it could sell you a magic wand. This was just an ordinary. Why do I keep trying to say unordinary when it says ordinary? That's like the complete opposite. Oof. Welcome to the train wreck. This was just an ordinary street full of ordinary people. Could there really be piles of wizard's gold buried miles beneath them? Were there really shops that sold spell books and broomsticks? Might this not all be some huge joke that the Dursleys had cooked up? If Harry hadn't known that the Dursleys had no sense of humor, he might have thought so. Yet somehow, even though everything Hagrid had told him so far was unbelievable, Harry couldn't help trusting him. This is it, said Hagrid, coming to a halt. The Leaky Cauldron. It's a famous place. It was a tiny, grubby-looking pub. If Hagrid hadn't pointed it out, Harry wouldn't have noticed it was there. The people hurrying by didn't glance at it. Their eyes slid from the big book shop on one side to the record shop on the other, as if they couldn't see the Leaky Cauldron at all. In fact, Harry had the most peculiar feeling that only he and Hagrid could see it. Before he could mention this, Hagrid had steered him inside. For a famous place, it was very dark and shabby. A few old women were sitting in a corner, drinking tiny glasses of sherry. One of them was smoking a long pipe. A little man in a top hat was taking in the old bartender, who was quite bald and looked like a toothless walnut. The low buzz of chatter stopped when they walked in. Everyone seemed to know Hagrid. They waved and smiled at him, and the bartender reached for a glass, saying, "The usual, Hagrid?" Can't, Tom. I'm on Hogwarts business, said Hagrid, clapping his great hand on Harry's shoulder and making Harry's knees buckle. Good Lord, said the bartender, peering at Harry. Can this be? The leaky cauldron had gone completely still and silent. Bless my soul, whispered the old bartender. Harry Potter, what an honor! He hurried out from behind the bar, rushed towards Harry, and seized his hands, tears in his eyes. Welcome back, Mr. Potter. Welcome back. Harry didn't know what to say. Everyone was looking at him. The old woman with the pipe was puffing on it without realizing it had gone out. Hagrid was beaming. Then there was a great scraping of chairs, and the next moment Harry found himself shaking hands with everyone in the Leaky Cauldron. Doris Crockford, Mr. Potter, can't believe I'm meeting you at last. So proud, Mr. Potter. I'm just so proud. Always wanted to shake your hand. I'm all of a flutter. Delighted, Mr. Potter. Just can't tell you. Diggle's the name. Daedalus Diggle. I've seen you before, said Harry, as Daedalus Diggle's top hat fell off in his excitement. You bowed at me once in a shop. He remembers! Cried Daedalus Diggle, looking around at everyone. Did you hear that? He remembers me! Zoe can do the voice way better. Harry shook his... Great, I need water. Don't... Ugh. Harry shook hands again and again. Doris Crockford kept coming back for more. A pale young man made his way forward very nervously. One of his eyes was twitching. Professor Quirrell, said Hagrid. Harry, Professor Quirrell is one of your teachers at Hogwarts. Potter, stammered Professor Quirrell, grasping Harry's hand. Can't tell you how pleased I am to meet you. I would be so much better if Bill was close, because he actually has a stutter, and so that would probably be a little easier on me. But I hope I did okay. What sort of magic do you teach, Professor Quirrell? Defense against the dark arts, muttered Professor Quirrell, as though he'd rather not think about it. Not that you need it, eh, Potter? He laughed nervously. You'll be getting all your equipment, I suppose. I got to I'm gonna stop. Pick up a new book on vampires myself. He looked terrified at the very thought. But the others wouldn't let Professor Quirrell keep Harry to himself. It took almost 10 minutes to get away from them all. At last, Hagrid managed to make himself heard over the babble. Must get on, lots to buy. Come on, Harry. Doris Crockford shook Harry's hand one last time, and Hagrid led them through the bar and out into a small walled courtyard, where there was nothing but a trash can and a few weeds. Hagrid grinned at Harry. Told you, didn't I? Told you was famous. Even Professor Quirrell was tremblin' ter meet you. Mind you, he's always tremblin'. Is he always that nervous? Oh yeah, poor bloke. Brilliant mind. He was fine while he was studying out of books, but then he took a year off to get some first-hand experience. They say he met some vampires in the Black Forest, and there was a nasty bit of trouble with a hag, never been the same since. Scared of the students, scared of his own subject. Now, where's my umbrella? Vampires? Hags? Harry's head was swimming. Hagrid, meanwhile, was counting bricks in the wall above the trash can. 3 up, 2 across, he muttered. Right, stand back, Harry. He tapped the wall 3 times with the point of his umbrella. The brick he had touched quivered, it wriggled. In the middle, a small hole appeared. It grew wider and wider. A second later, they were facing an archway large enough even for Hagrid. An archway onto a cobbled street that twisted and turned out of sight. Welcome, said Hagrid, to Diagon Alley. He grinned at Harry's amazement. They stepped through the archway. Harry looked quickly over his shoulder and saw the archway shrinking instantly back into solid wall. The sun shone brightly on a stack of cauldrons outside the nearest shop. Cauldrons, all sizes, copper, brass, pewter, silver, self-stirring, collapsible, with a sign hanging over them. Yeah, you'll be needing one, said Hagrid, but we gotta get your money first. Harry wished he had about 8 more eyes. He turned his head in every direction as they walked up the street, trying to look at everything at once. The shops, the things outside them, the people doing their shopping. A plump woman outside an apothecary was shaking her head as they passed by, saying, "Dragon liver, 17 sickles an ounce. They're mad." A low, soft hooting came from a dark shop with a sign saying, "Ilops Owl Emporium, tawny, screech, barn, brown, and snowy." Several boys of about Harry's age had their noses pressed against the window with a broomsticks in it. "Look!" Harry heard one of them say, "the new Nimbus 2000, fastest ever." There were shops selling robes, shops selling telescopes and strange silver instruments Harry had never seen before, windows stacked with barrels of bat spleens and eel's eyes, tottering piles of spell books, quills and rolls of parchment, potion bottles, globes of the moon, Gringotts, said Hagrid. They had reached a snowy white building that towered over the other little shops. Standing beside it, burnished brown doors, wearing a uniform of scarlet and gold, was "Yeah, that's a goblin," said Hagrid quietly as they walked up the white stone steps towards him. The goblin was about a head shorter than Harry. He had a swarthy, clever face, a pointy beard, and Harry noticed very long fingers and feet. He bowed as they walked inside. Now they were facing a second pair of doors, silver this time, with words engraved upon them. "Enter, stranger, but take heed of what awaits the sin of greed. For those who take but do not earn must pay most dearly in their turn. So if you seek beneath our floors a treasure that was never yours, thief, you have been warned, beware of finding more than treasure there." "Like I said, you'd be mad to try and rob 'em," said Hagrid. A pair of goblins bowed them through the silver doors, and they were in a vast marble hall. About 100 more goblins were sitting on the high stools behind a long counter, scribbling in large ledgers, weighing coins and brass scales, examining precious stones through eyeglasses. There were too many doors to count leading off the hall, and yet more goblins were showing people in and out of these. Hagrid and Harry made for the counter. "Morning," said Hagrid to a free goblin. "We've come to take some money out of Mr. Harry Potter's safe." "You got his keys, sir?" "Got it. Got it here somewhere," said Hagrid, and he started emptying his pockets on the counter, scattering a handful of moldy dog biscuits over the goblin's book of numbers. The goblin wrinkled his nose. Harry watched the goblin on their right weighing a pile of rubies as big as glowing coals. "Got it," said Hagrid at last, holding up a tiny golden key. The goblin looked at it closely. "That seems to be in order. And I've got a letter here from Professor Dumbledore," said Hagrid importantly, throwing out his chest. "It's about the you-know-what in Vault 713. The goblin read the letter carefully. "Very well," he said, handing it back to Hagrid. "I will have someone take you down to both vaults. Griphook!" Griphook was yet another goblin. Once Hagrid had crammed all the dog biscuits back into his pockets, he and Harry followed Griphook toward one of the doors leading off the hall. "What's the you-know-what in Vault 713? Harry asked. "Can't tell you that," said Hagrid mysteriously. "Very secret. Hogwarts business. Dumbledore trusted me. More'n my job's worth to tell you that." Griphook held the door open for them. Harry, who had expected more marble, was surprised. They were in a narrow stone passageway lit with flaming torches. It sloped steeply downward, and there were little railway tracks on the floor. Griphook whistled, and a small cart came hurtling up the tracks towards them. They climbed in, Hagrid with some difficulty, and were off. At first, they just hurtled through a maze of twisting passageways. Harry tried to remember left, right, left, middle fork, right, left, but it was impossible. The rattling cart seemed to know its own way because Griphook wasn't steering. Harry's eyes stung as the cold air rushed past them, but he kept them wide open. Once he thought he saw a burst of fire at the end of a passage and twisted around to see if it was a dragon, but too late. They plunged even deeper, passing an underground lake where huge stalactites and stalagmites grew from the ceiling and floor. "I never know," Harry called to Hagrid over the noise of the cart. "What's the difference between a stalagmite and a stalactite?" "Stalagmites have got an M in it," said Hagrid, "and don't ask me questions now. Just now. Oof, sorry. Don't ask me questions just now. I think I'm going to be sick." He did look very green, and when the cart stopped at last beside a small door in the passageway, Hagrid got out and had to lean against the wall to stop his knees from trembling. Griphook unlocked the door. A lot of green smoke came billowing out, and as it cleared, Harry gasped. Inside were mounds of gold coins, columns of silver, heaps of little bronze knuts. All yours, smiled Hagrid. All Harry's. It was incredible. The Dursleys couldn't have known about this, or they'd have had it from him faster than blinking. How often had they complained how much Harry cost them to keep? And all this time, there had been a small fortune belonging to him buried underneath London. Hagrid helped Harry pile some of it into a bag. The gold ones are galleons, he explained. 17 silver sickles to a galleon and 29 knuts to a sickle. It's easy enough. Right, that should be enough for a couple of terms. We'll keep the rest here for you. He turned to Griphook. Vault 713 now, please. And can we go more slowly? One speed only, said Griphook. They were going even deeper now and gathering speed. The air became colder and colder as they hurtled round tight corners. They were rattling over an underground ravine, and Harry leaned over the side to try to see what was down at the dark bottom, but Hagrid groaned and pulled him back by the scruff of his neck. Vault 713 had no keyhole. Stand back, said Griphook importantly. He stroked the door gently with one of his long fingers, and it simply melted away. If anyone but a Gringotts goblin tried that, they'd be sucked through the door and trapped in there, said Griphook. How often do you check to see if anyone's inside? Harry asked. About once every 10 years, said Griphook with a rather nasty grin. Something really extraordinary had to be inside this top secret vault. Harry was sure, and he leaned forward eagerly, expecting to see some fabulous jewels at the very least. But at first he thought it was empty. Then he noticed a grubby little package wrapped up in a brown paper lying on the floor. Hagrid picked it up and tucked it deep inside his coat. Harry longed to know what it was, but knew better than to ask. Come on, back to this infernal cart, and don't talk to me on the way back. It's best if I keep my mouth shut, said Hagrid. One wild cart ride later, they stood blinking in the sunlight outside Gringotts. Harry didn't know where to run first. Now that he had a bag full of money, he didn't have to know how many galleons there were to a pound to know that he was holding more money than that he had in his whole life, more money than even Dudley had ever had. Might as well get your uniform, said Hagrid, nodding toward Madame Malkin's robes for all occasions. Listen, Harry, would you mind if I slipped off for a pick-me-up at the Leaky Cauldron? I hate those Gringotts carts. He did still look a bit sick, so Harry entered Madame Malkin's shop alone, feeling nervous. Madame Malkin was a squat, smiling witch, dressed all in mauve. Hagrid's dear, she said when Harry started to speak. Got the lot here. Another young man being fitted up just now, in fact. In the back of the shop, a boy with a pale, pointed face was standing on a footstool while a second witch pinned up his long black robes. Madame Malkin stood Harry on a stool next to him, slipped a long robe over his head, and began to pin it to the right length. Hello, said the boy. Hogwarts too? Yes, said Harry. My father's next door buying my books, and mother's up street looking at wands, said the boy. He had a bored, drawling voice. Then I'm going to drag them off to look at racing brooms. I don't see why first years can't have their own. I think I'll bully father into getting me one, and I'll smuggle it in somehow. Harry was strongly reminded of Dudley. Have you got your own broom? The boy went on. No, said Harry. Play Quidditch at all? No, Harry said again, wondering what on earth Quidditch could be. I do. Father says it's a crime if I'm not picked to play for my house, and I must say I agree. Know what house you'll be in yet? No, said Harry, feeling more stupid by the minute. Well, no one really knows until they get there, do they? But I know I'll be in Slytherin. All our family has been. Imagine being in Hufflepuff. I'd think I'd leave, wouldn't you? Zoe's a Hufflepuff, and right now she really wants to front and just rant about how Hufflepuffs are amazing. Hold on, I need to calm her down. she's calmish now, but like she's still like Hufflepuffs are amazing. We are hardworking and loyal and loving. Rawr. That's pretty much what she said. It's literally just Zoe. um. Okay, where are we? Oh yeah, that part. We're next page. Hmm? Said Harry, wishing he could say something a bit more interesting. I say, look at that man, said the boy, suddenly nodding towards the front window. Hagrid was standing there, grinning at Harry and pointing at two large ice creams to show he couldn't come in. That's Hagrid, said Harry, pleased to know something the boy didn't. He works at Hogwarts. Oh, said the boy, I've heard of him. He's sort of a servant, isn't he? He's the gatekeeper, said Harry. He was liking the boy less and less every second. And now Draco's close because we're talking about him, and he's like, "Okay, I hate myself right now," because Draco Malfoy in our system is from third year, so I mean he kind of matured, less of a prat, I suppose. I mean, more of a prat. Don't hurt me. um. Yes, exactly. I heard he's some sort of savage, lives in a hut on the school grounds, and every now and then he gets drunk, tries to do magic, and ends up setting fire to his bed. I think he's brilliant, said Harry coldly. Do you? Said the boy with a slight sneer. Why is he with you? Where are your parents? They're dead, said Harry shortly. He didn't feel much like going into the matter with this boy. Oh, sorry, said the other not sounding sorry at all. But they were our kind, weren't they? They were a witch and wizard, if that's what you mean. I really don't think they should let the other sort in, do you? They're just not the same. They've never been brought up to know our ways. Some of them have never even heard of Hogwarts until they get the letter. Imagine. I think they should keep it in the old wizarding families. What's your surname, anyway? But before Harry could answer, Madame Melkin and said, That's you done, my boy. And Harry, not sorry for an excuse to stop talking to the boy, hopped down from the footstool. Well, I'll see you at Hogwarts, I suppose, said the drawling boy. Harry was rather quiet as he ate the ice cream Hagrid had bought him, chocolate and raspberry with chopped nuts. What's up? Said Hagrid. Nothing, Harry lied. They stopped to buy parchment and quills. Harry cheered up a bit when he found a bottle of ink that changed colors as you wrote. When they had left the shop, he said, Hagrid, what's Quidditch? Blimey, Harry, I keep forgetting how little you know. Not knowing about Quidditch. Don't make me feel worse, said Harry. He told Hagrid about the pale boy and Madame Malkin's, and he said people from Muggle families shouldn't even be allowed in. You're not from a Muggle family. If he'd known who you were, he's grown up knowing your name. If his parents are wizarding folk, you saw the way you saw what everyone in the Leaky Cauldron was like when they saw you. Anyway, what does he know about it? Some of the best I ever saw were the ones with whew, ever saw were the ones with magic in 'em, in a long line of muggles. Look at your mum. Look at what she had for a sister. So what is Quidditch? It's our sport, wizard sport. It's like soccer in the muggle world. Everyone follows Quidditch, played up in the air on broomsticks, and there's four balls. Sorta hard to explain the rules. And what are Slytherin and Hufflepuff? Schoolhouses. There's four. Everyone says Hufflepuff are a lot of duffers, but I bet I'm a Hufflepuff, said Harry gloomily. Harry, please stop. Better can you just like see Zoe like pretty much Kokon now being like, no, I am a Hufflepuff. They must be loved. Okay, hold on, I'm gonna check how long this chapter is left and see if how far I can, okay, not that long. And then I'll try to read at least 3 pages of the next chapter, but I'm gonna have to end it there because, oof, I'm getting very dissociated and I wanna go to bed. um, Better Hufflepuff than Slytherin, said Hagrid darkly. There's not a single witch or wizard who went bad who wasn't in Slytherin. You know who was one. Well, sorry. You know who was at Hogwarts? Years and years ago, said Hagrid. They bought Harry's school books in a shop called Flourish and Blots, where the shelves were stacked. Yeah, pretty much. That literally just yes. um Sorry to interrupt, but in the Dreary Amino, when we were on Amino, we're not on Amino anymore. We're taking a long break from that. But when on the Dreary Amino, she had the title on her profile Hufflepuff Mom because pretty much. And then she literally had one of her badges was chaotic, so the chaotic Hufflepuff Mom. I mean that pretty much describes her. Flourish and Blots with shelves were stacked to the ceiling with books as large as paving stones, bound in leather, books the size of postage stamps and covers of silk, books full of peculiar symbols, and few books with nothing in them at all. Even Dudley, who never read anything, would have been wild to get his hands on some of these. Hagrid almost had to drag Harry around away from curses and counter curses, bewitch your friends and befuddle your enemies with the latest revenges, hair loss, jelly legs, tongue tying, and much, much more. By Professor Vindicus Viridian. Say that five times fast. Vindicus Viridian. That's an interesting name. I was trying to find out how to curse Dudley. I'm not saying that's not a good idea, but you're not to use your magic in the Muggle world, except in very special circumstances, said Hagrid. And anyway, you couldn't work any of them curses yet. You'll need a lot more study before you can get to that level. Hagrid wouldn't let Harry buy a solid gold cauldron either. It says pewter on your list. But they got a nice set of scales for weighing potion ingredients and a collapsible brass telescope. Then they visited the apothecary, which was fascinating enough to make up for its horrible smell, a mixture of bad eggs and rotten cabbages. Barrels of slimy stuff stood on the floor, jars of herbs, dried roots, and bright powders lined the walls. Bundles of feathers, strings of fangs, and snarled claws hung from the ceiling, while Hagrid asked the man behind the corner for supplies of some basic potion ingredients for Harry. Harry himself examined silver unicorn horns at 21 gallons each, and minuscule glittering black beetle eyes, 5 canuts a scoop. Outside the apothecary, Hagrid checked Harry's list again. Just your wand left. Oh, and I still haven't got you a birthday present. Harry felt himself go red. You don't have to. I know I don't have to. Tell you what, I'll get your animal, not a toad. Toads are way out of fashion years ago. You'd be laughed at. And I don't like cats. They make me sneeze. I'll get you an owl. All the kids want owls. They're dead useful. Carrier mail and everything. 20 minutes later, they left Ilop's Owl Emporium, which had been dark and full of rustling, flickering, jeweled bright eyes. Harry now carried a large cage with a beautiful snowy owl fast asleep with her head under her wing. He couldn't stop stammering his thanks, sounding just like Professor Quirrell. Zoe just squealed very loudly, and ow. She basically was, Hedwig! Very loudly in my ear. I know it doesn't affect the body's ears, but it kind of feels like it. Oof. Jesus Christ. Okay, moving on. Don't mention it, said Hagrid gruffly. Don't expect you've had a lot of presents from the Dursleys. Just Ollivanders left now. Only place for wands. Ollivanders, and you gotta have the best wand. A magical wand. This was what Harry had been really looking forward to. The last shop was narrow and shabby, peeling gold letters over the door read Ollivanders, makers of fine wands, since 382 BC. A single wand lay on a faded purple cushion in the dusty window. A tinkling bell rang somewhere in the depths of the shop as they stepped inside. It was a tiny place, empty except for a single spindly chair that Hagrid sat on to wait. Harry felt strangely as though he had entered a very strict library. He swallowed a lot of new questions that had just occurred to him and looked instead at the thousands of narrow boxes piled neatly right up to the ceiling. For some reason, the back of his neck prickled. The very dust and silence in here seemed to tingle with some secret magic. "Good afternoon," said a soft voice. Harry jumped. Hagrid must have jumped too, because there was a loud crunching noise, and he got up. He quickly got off the spindly chair. An old man standing before them, his wide, pale eyes shining like moons through the gloom of the shop. "Hello," said Harry awkwardly. "Ah, yes," said the man. "Yes, yes. I thought I'd be seeing you soon, Harry Potter." It wasn't a question. "You have your mother's eyes. It seems only yesterday she was in here herself buying her first wand. 10 1/4 inches long, swishy, made of willow. Nice wand for charm work." Mr. Ollivander moved closer to Harry. Harry wished he would blink. Those silvery eyes were a bit creepy. "Your father, on the other hand, favored a mahogany wand, 11 inches, pliable, a little more power and excellence for transfiguration. Will I say your father favored it? It's really the wand that chooses the wizard, of course." Mr. Ollivander had come so close that he and Harry were almost nose to nose. Harry could see himself reflected in those misty eyes. "And that's where—" Mr. Ollivander touched the lightning scar on Harry's forehead with a long white finger. "I'm sorry to say I sold that wand that did it," he said softly. 13 1/2 inches. Powerful wand, very powerful, and in the wrong hands. Well, if I'd known what the wand was going to out into the world to do—" He shook his head, and then, to Harry's relief, spotted Hagrid. "Rubeus! Rubeus, Hagrid! How nice to see you again. Oak, 16 inches, rather bendy, wasn't it?" "It was, sir, yes," said Hagrid. "Good wand, that one, but I suppose they snapped it in half when you got expelled," said Mr. Ollivander, suddenly stern. Yes, they did, sir. Yes," said Hagrid, shuffling his feet. "I've still got the pieces, though," he added brightly. "But you don't use them," said Mr. Ollivander sharply. "Oh, no, sir," said Hagrid quickly. Harry noticed he gripped his pink umbrella very tightly as he spoke. Said Mr. Ollivander, giving Hagrid a piercing look. "Well now, Mr. Potter, let me see." He pulled a long tape measure with silver markings out of his pocket. "Which is your wand arm?" Well, I'm right-handed," said Harry. "Hold out your arm, that's it." He measured Harry from shoulder to finger, then wrist to elbow, shoulder to floor, knee to armpit, and round his head. As he measured, he said, "Every Ollivander wand has a core of powerful magical substance, Mr. Potter. We use unicorn? We're now adding an H to unicorn, apparently. We use unicorn hairs, phoenix tail feathers, and the heartstrings of dragons. No two Ollivander wands are the same, just as no two unicorns, dragons, or phoenixes are quite the same. And of course, you will never get such good results with the other wizard's wand." Isn't there another basic wand core? Unicorn, dragon. I can't remember, but I know. Isn't there another one? I don't know. And of course, you will never get such good results with another wizard's wand. Mm. Harry suddenly realized that the tape measure, which was measuring between his nostrils, was doing this on its own. Mr. Ollivander was flitting around the shelves, taking down boxes. "That will do," he said, and the tape measure crumpled into a heap on the floor. "Right then, Mr. Potter, try this one. Beechwood and dragon heartstring, 9 inches, nice and flexible. Just take it and give it a wave." Harry took the wand and, feeling very foolish, waved it around a bit, but Mr. Ollivander snatched it out of his hand almost at once. "Maple and phoenix feather, 7 inches, quite whippy. Try." Harry tried, but he hardly had raised the wand when it too was snatched back by Mr. Ollivander. No, no, here, ebony and unicorn hair, 8.5 inches, springy. Go on, try it out. Harry tried and tried. He had no idea what Mr. Ollivander was waiting for. The pile of tried wands was mounting higher and higher on the spindly chair, but the more wands Mr. Ollivander pulled from the shelves, the happier he seemed to become. Tricky customer, eh? Not to worry, we'll find the perfect match here somewhere. I wonder now, yes, why not? Unusual combination. Holly and a phoenix feather. 11 inches, nice and supple. Harry took the wand. He felt a sudden warmth in his fingers. He raised the wand above his head, brought it swishing down through the dusty air, and a stream of red and gold sparks shot from the end like a firework, throwing dancing spots of light onto the walls. Hagrid whooped and clapped, and Mr. Ollivander cried, "Oh, bravo! Yes, indeed! Oh, very good! Well, well, well! How curious! How very curious!" He put Harry's wand back into its box and wrapped it in a brown paper, still muttering, "Curious, curious." "Sorry," said Harry, "but what's curious?" Mr. Ollivander fixed Harry with his pale stare. "I remember every wand I have ever sold, Mr. Potter. Every single wand. It just so happens that the phoenix whose tail feather is in your wand gave another feather. Just one. It is very curious indeed that you should be destined for the wand when its brother, gave you that scar." Harry swallowed. "Yes, 13.5 inches, you. Curious indeed how these things happen. The wand chooses the wizard, remember? I think we must expect great things from you, Mr. Potter. After all, he who must not be named, he did great things. Terrible, but yes, great." Harry shivered. He wasn't sure he liked Mr. Ollivander too much. He paid 7 galleons for his wand, and Mr. Ollivander bowed them from his shop. The late afternoon sun hung low in the sky as Harry and Hagrid made their way back down Diagon Alley, back through the wall, back through the leaky cauldron, now empty. Harry didn't speak at all as they walked down the road. He didn't even notice how much people were gawking at them on the underground, laden on as much as they were with all their funny-shaped packages, with the snowy owl asleep in her cage on Harry's lap. Up another escalator, on into Paddington Station. Harry only realized where they were when Hagrid tapped him on the shoulder. "Got time for a bite to eat before your train leaves," he said. He bought Harry a hamburger, and they sat down on a plastic seats to eat them. Harry kept looking around. Everything looked so strange somehow. "You all right, Harry? You're very quiet," said Hagrid. Harry wasn't sure he could explain. He just had the best birthday of his life, and yet he chewed his hamburger, trying to find the words. "Everyone thinks I'm special," he said at last. "All those people in the leaky cauldron, Professor Quirrell, Mr. Ollivander, but I don't know anything about magic at all. How could they expect great things? I'm famous, and I can't even remember what I'm famous for. I don't know what happened when the night my parents died." Hagrid leaned across the table. Behind the wild beard and eyebrows he wore a very kind smile. Don't you worry, Harry. You'll learn fast enough. Everyone starts at the beginning at Hogwarts. You'll just be fine. Just be yourself. I know it's hard. You've been singled out, and that's always hard. But you'll have a great time at Hogwarts. I did. Still do, as a matter of fact." Hagrid helped Harry onto the train that would take him to the Dursleys, then handed him an envelope. "Your ticket for Hogwarts," he said. "First of September, King's Cross. It's all on your ticket. Any problems with the Dursleys, send me a letter with your owl. She'll know where to find me. See you soon, Harry." The train pulled out of the station. Harry wanted to watch Hagrid until he was out of sight. He rose in his seat and pressed his nose against the window, but he blinked, and Hagrid had gone. Chapter 6. The Journey from Platform 9 3/4. Harry's last month with the Dursley wasn't fun. True, Dudley was now so scared of Harry he wouldn't stay in the same room, while Aunt Petunia and Uncle Vernon didn't shut Harry in his cupboard, force him to do anything, or shout at him. In fact, they didn't speak to him at all. Half terrified, half furious, they acted as though any chair with Harry in it were empty. Although this was an improvement in many ways, it did become a bit depressing after a while. Harry kept to his room and his new owl for company. He had decided to call her Hedwig, a name he had found in a history of magic. His school books were very interesting. He lay on his bed reading late into the night, Hedwig swooping in and out of the open window as she pleased. It was lucky that Aunt Petunia didn't come in to vacuum anymore because Hedwig kept bringing back dead mice. Every night before he went to sleep, Harry ticked off another day on the piece of paper he had pinned to the wall, counting down to September the 1st. On the last day of August, he thought he'd better speak to his aunt and uncle about getting to King's Cross Station the next day, so he went down to the living room where they were watching a quiz show on television. He cleared his throat to let them know he was there, and Dudley screamed and ran from the room. Uncle Vernon? Uncle Vernon grunted to show he was listening. I need to be at King's Cross to go to Hogwarts. Uncle Vernon grunted again. Would it be all right if you gave me a lift? Grunt? Harry supposed that meant a yes. Thank you. He was about to go back upstairs when Uncle Vernon actually spoke. Funny way to get to a wizard school, the train. Magic carpets all got punctures, have they? Harry didn't say anything. Where is the school, anyway? I don't know, said Harry, realizing this for the first time. He pulled the ticket Hagrid had gave him out of his pockets. I just take the train from platform 9 3/4 at 11 o'clock, he read. His aunt and uncle stared. Platform what? 9 3/4. Don't talk rubbish, said Uncle Vernon. That there is no platform 9 3/4. It's on the ticket. Barking, said Uncle Vernon. Howling mad, a lot of them. You'll see. You just wait. All right, we'll take you to King's Cross. We're going up to London tomorrow anyway, or I wouldn't bother. Why are you going to London? Harry asked, trying to keep things friendly. Taking Dudley to the hospital, growled Uncle Vernon. Got to have that ruddy tail removed before he goes to Smeltings. Hold up, I'm checking how long this chapter is. Okay. Harry woke at 5 o'clock the next morning and was too excited and nervous to go back to sleep. He got up and pulled out on his jeans because he didn't want to walk into the station in his wizard robes. He'd changed on the train. He checked his Hogwarts list yet again to make sure he had everything he needed, saw that Hedwig was safely in her cage, and then paced the room waiting for the Dursleys to get up. 2 hours later, Harry's huge, heavy trunk had been loaded into the Dursleys' car. Aunt Petunia had talked Dudley into sitting next to Harry, and they had set off. They reached King's Cross at 10:30. Uncle Vernon dumped Harry's trunk onto a cart and wheeled it into the station for him. Harry thought this was strangely kind until Uncle Vernon stopped dead, facing the platform with a nasty grin on his face. Well, there you are, boy. Platform 9, platform 10. Your platform should be somewhere in the middle, but they don't seem to have built it yet, do they? He was quite right, of course. There was a big plastic number 9 over one platform and a big plastic number 10 over the one next to it, and in the middle, nothing at all. Have a good term, said Uncle Vernon with an even nastier smile. He left without another word. Harry turned and saw the Dursleys drive away. All three of them were laughing. Harry's mouth went rather dry. What on earth was he going to do? He was starting to attract a lot of funny looks because of Hedwig. He'd have to ask someone. He stopped a passing guard, but didn't dare mention platform 9 3/4. The guard had never heard of Hogwarts, and when Harry couldn't even tell him what part of the country it was in, he started to get annoyed, as though Harry was being stupid on purpose. Getting desperate, Harry asked for the train that left at 11 o'clock, but the guard said that there wasn't any. In the end, the guard strode away, muttering about time wasters. Harry was now trying hard not to panic. According to the large clock over the arrival board, he had 10 minutes left to get on the train to Hogwarts, and he had no idea how to do it. He was stranded in the middle of the station with a trunk he could hardly lift, a pocket full of wizard money, and a large owl. Hagrid must have forgotten to tell him something. You had to do like tapping the third brick on the left to get into Diagon Alley. He wondered if he should get out his wand and start tapping the tickets inspector stand between platforms 9 and 10. At that moment, a group of people passed just behind him, and he caught a few words of what they were saying. Packed with muggles, of course. Harry swung around. The speaker was a plump woman who was talking to four boys, all with flaming red hair. Each of them was pushing a trunk like Harry's in front of them, and they had an owl. Heart hammering, Harry pushed his cart after them. They stopped, and so did he, just near enough to hear what they were saying. "Now, what's the platform number?" said the boy's mother. 9 3/4, piped up a small girl, also red-headed, who was holding her hand. "Mom, can't I go?" "You're not old enough, Jenny. Now be quiet." "All right, Percy, you go first." What looked like the oldest boy marched toward the platform 9 and 10. Harry watched carefully, not to blink in case he missed it. But just as the boy reached the dividing barrier between the two platforms, a large crowd of tourists came swarming in front of him, and by the time the last backpack had cleared, the boy had vanished. "Fred, you next," said the plump woman. "I'm not Fred, I'm George," said the boy. "Honestly, woman, you call yourself our mother. Can't you tell I'm George?" "Sorry, George, dear." "Only joking. I am Fred," said the boy, and off he went. His twin called after him to hurry up, and he must have done so, because a second later he had gone. But how had he done it? Now the third brother was walking briskly towards the barrier. He was almost there, and then, quite suddenly, he wasn't anywhere. There was nothing else for it. "Excuse me," Harry said to the plump woman. "Hello, dear," she said. "First time at Hogwarts. Ron's new, too." She pointed at the lost and youngest of her sons. He was tall, thin, and gangling, with freckles, big hands and feet, and a long nose. "Yes," said Harry. The thing is, I don't know how to get onto the platform," she said kindly. Oof, I don't know why I have hiccups. And Harry nodded. "Not to worry," she said. "All you have to do is walk straight at the barrier between platforms 9 and 10. Don't stop, and don't be scared you'll crash into it. That's very important. Best do it at a bit of a run if you're nervous. Go on. Go now before Ron." Okay," said Harry. He pushed his trolley around and stared at the barrier. It looked very solid. He started to walk toward it. People jostled him on their way to platforms 9 and 10. Harry walked more quickly. He was going to smash right into the barrier, and then he'd be in trouble. Leaning forward on his cart, he broke up into a heavy run. The barrier was coming nearer and nearer. He wouldn't be able to stop. The cart was out of control. He was a foot away. He closed his eyes, ready for the crash. It didn't come. He kept running. He opened his eyes. A Scarlet Scream engine was waiting next to a platform packed with people. A sign overhead said Hogwarts Express, 11 o'clock. Harry looked behind him and saw a wrought iron archway where the barrier had been, and the words Platform 9 3/4 on it. He had done it. Smoke from the engine drifted over the heads of the chattering crowd, while cats of every color wound here and there between their legs. Owls hooted to one another in a disgruntled sort of way over the babble and the scraping of heavy trunks. The first few carriages were already packed with students, some hanging out of the window to talk to their families, while some fighting over seats. Harry pushed his cart off down the platform in search of an empty seat. He passed a round-faced boy who was saying, "Gran, I've lost my toad again." "Oh, Neville," he heard the old woman sigh. The boy with dreadlocks was surrounded by a small crowd. "Give us a look, Lee. Go on." The boy lifted the lid of a box in his arm, and the people around him shrieked and yelled at something as something poked out a long, hairy leg. Oof. Harry pressed on through the crowd until he found an empty compartment near the end of the train. He put Hedwig inside first, and then started to shove and heave his trunk toward the train door. He tried to lift it up the steps, but he could hardly raise one end, and twice he dropped it painfully on his foot. "Want a hand?" It was one of the red-haired twins he'd followed through the barrier. "Yes, please," Harry panted. "Oi, Fred, come here and help." With the twins' help, Harry's trunk was at last tucked away in a corner of the compartment. "Thanks," said Harry, pushing his sweaty hair out of his eyes. "What's that?" said one of the twins, suddenly pointing at Harry's scar. "Blimey," said the other twin. "Are you—" "He is!" said the first twin. "Aren't you?" he added to Harry. "What?" said Harry. "Harry Potter!" chorused twins. "Oh, him," said Harry. "I mean, yes, I am." The two boys gawked at him, and Harry felt himself turning red. Then, to his relief, a voice came floating in through the train's open door. "Fred, George, are you in there?" "Coming, Mom." With a last look at Harry, the twins hopped off the train. Harry sat down next to the window, where, half hidden, he could watch the red-haired family on the platform and hear what they were saying. Their mother had just taken out her handkerchief. "Ron, you've got something on your nose." The youngest boy tried to jerk out of the way, but she grabbed him and began rubbing the end of his nose. "Mom, off!" He wriggled free. Has Ickle Ronnie got something on his nose?" said one of the twins. Shut up, said Ron. Where's Percy? Said their mother. He's coming now. The oldest boy came striding into sight. He had already changed into the billowing black Hogwarts robes, and Harry noticed a shiny silver badge on his chest with the letter P on it. Can't stay long, Mother, he said. I'm up front, but the prefects have got 2 compartments to themselves. Oh, and you're a prefect, Percy, said one of the twins, with an air of great surprise. You should have said something. We had no idea. Hang on, I think I remember him saying something about it, said the other twin. Once. Or twice. A minute. All summer. Oh, shut up, said Percy the prefect. How come Percy got new robes? Anyway, said one of the twins. Because he's a prefect, said their mother fondly. All right, dear. Well, have a great term. Send me an owl when you get there. She kissed Percy on the cheek, and he laughed. Then she turned to the twins. Now you two, this year you behave yourselves. If I get one more owl telling you you've blown up a toilet door. Blown up a toilet? We've never blown up a toilet. Great idea, though. Thanks, Mom. It's not funny. And look after Ron. Don't worry, Icky Ronaldkins is safe with us. Shut up, said Ron again. He was almost as tall as the twins already, and his nose was still pink where his mother had rubbed it. Hey, Mom, guess what? Guess who we met on the train? Harry leaned back quickly so they couldn't see him looking. You know that black-haired boy who was near us in the station? Know who he was? Who? Harry Potter! Harry heard their little girl's voice. Oh, Mom, can I go on the train and see him? Mama, please. We've already seen him, Ginny, and the poor boy isn't something you can goggle at a zoo. Is he really, Fred? How do you know? Asked him. Saw a scar. It's really there, like lightning. Poor dear. No wonder he was alone, I wonder. He was ever so polite when he asked how to get onto the platform. Never mind that. Do you think he remembers what you-know-who looks like? Their mother suddenly became very stern. I forbid you to ask him, Fred. No, don't you dare. As though he needs reminding of what that on his first day at school. All right, keep your hair on. A whistle sounded. Hurry up, their mother said, and the 3 boys clambered onto the train. They leaned out of the window for her to kiss them goodbye, and their younger sister began to cry. Don't, Ginny. We'll send loads of owls. We'll send you a Hogwarts toilet seat. George! Only joking, Mum. The train began to move. Harry saw the boys' mother waving and their sisters half laughing, half crying, running to keep up with the train until it gathered too much speed. Then she fell back and waved. Harry watched the girl and her mother disappear as the train rounded the corner. Houses flashed past the window. Harry felt a great leap of excitement. He didn't know what he was going to, but it had to be better than what he was leaving behind. Hold up, I'm checking. How much do I have the chapter left? Okay. I'm gonna stop there. I hope you enjoyed this live stream. But we are not going to be reading tomorrow because we're going Christmas shopping for our friends. Because every year Zoe does this thing where she goes and buys things for her friends because she's a Hufflepuff. What do you expect? But yeah, so we're going shopping tomorrow. So there will be no videos or live streaming tomorrow, although we'll try to film a couple videos on Saturday and then also live stream. So we have live streams and videos coming up every day. Hopefully, we're trying our best. So, oh yeah, and I forgot to mention, all our social media and stuff are down below. Please give us a follow or whatever. Our Wattpad is down there, and so is our Quotive. So if you guys want to read books then that Zoe and our system wrote, please go do so. It's mostly Zoe, but if it's like a backstory on like someone like a character that became an alter or something like that, like an OC fictive, then they helped write it mostly. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this live stream. Zoe says she loves you guys, and Huggles, actually she's like 4, so her actual wording was I love them. So, and then she said Huggles and then tried to grip the air. with tiny fists. So, she loves you guys. Have a nice evening, day, night, whatever, whatever time it is. Bye.